What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to FOP. I am your host, John-Imre Singleton, and you know the drill. Here on FOP, we like to give you our perspective on movies, theater, and streaming, TV, anime, and my other co-host, Joshua Lewis, is very excited to start bringing you his, perspective on new release music as it comes out. He's really excited to start doing that with you guys. Speaking of Josh, as you can see, I'm riding solo today. He was pretty busy over the last week or so. Couldn't quite squeeze in the Prey movie, but that's alright. I'm still here to give those thoughts to you. And as soon as he sees it, he'll be sure to sprinkle that in whichever video comes after that. That being said, you know what movie we're talking about. We are talking about Prey. The movie that strangely did not get a theatrical release. Strictly a Hulu streaming movie. And wow. This movie, just to kind of sum up those thoughts before we dive right in. This movie was the win of the weekend for me, personally. It came out the same weekend as Bullet Train, and I wasn't expecting too much from this film, just from the fact that I haven't been the biggest fan of the franchise. Growing up, I always thought that this was an interesting sci-fi world and realm that they delivered, and I thought the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger was quite entertaining and not too shabby. That being said, they've had a lot of hit and misses, more misses. According to the internet, I know that no one's really a big fan of the previous iteration, the Shane Black film. And I do know that people were feeling the Adrian Brody one that took place in 2009, I think. So going into this one, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But then the early reactions started to come out of the premiere, and they were glowing, which was kind of surprising and got me more anticipated. And it kind of moved up my list to, I need to sit down and watch this. Definitely before the weekend ends, but if I can get it in sooner, the better. So I sat down the day it came out and watched it, and I was very, very, very thrilled with it, to say the least. And a lot of that goes to the fact that it knew what it was. It had a nice, concise runtime of about an hour and 40 minutes. You guys know by now I'm a big fan of a movie can be as long as it needs to be. It's just the fact of making sure that your movie is giving what it needs to in that time frame, or not giving more than it needs to, and thus making the time too long. And I thought this movie was perfect. They have a beautiful setup. Going right into it, we get to learn about the tribe that let me find her name real quick. Amber Midthunder's character Naru is a part of, and her brother, played by Dakota Beavers, which they are both great in this film. You get that initial setup, the awakening. I like this routine you get to see throughout the film of her being woken up to do the quote-unquote female duties of the tribe, which is gather berries and stuff, which I would assume are for medicine and things like that. But you can tell that Naru has a passion for, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this, by the way. You can tell that Naru has a passion for being on the other end of that tribe spectrum, the hunting aspect. And you can see that she fits the hunting in and the training in when she can, / when she's out gathering. And you can tell that she has a proficient to it, but she's not quite there yet. And I think something that's very interesting about the theme of this film is her going on her, I forget the appropriate way to say it in the native language, but their big hunt. And I thought it was really neat how it's basically her older brother understanding that she wants to hunt in that mind frame, but in order for the village to quote unquote take her seriously or take her in that manner, she has to complete her big hunt, which I thought was a really nice thing that they went over throughout the film. And of course, the prey, or the predator, or the prey, is essentially her big hunt, which I thought was a very cool way to connect it to her character arc throughout the story, and also use that as the predator versus man, predator prey kind of thing throughout the film as well. So I thought they did a really, really great job with that as well. Then it kind of gets in from there. I think they did a great job with the predator in this film as well. Again, not someone who hasn't, I'm not like predator deep lore, but I really enjoy that. It's always been very clear to me in previous iterations that the predator is just that. He comes to a new atmosphere or brings creatures or people from another atmosphere, another ecosystem, if you will, and essentially tries to prove himself the apex predator. So I thought it was really neat how throughout this film, as Naru and her brother were kind of doing their due diligence in the tribe, hunting, those kinds of things, they were showing the predators slowly essentially move up the chain of predators. It starts with the snake, which is a really nice subtle one that kind of just feels like I'm just attacking something that attacked me. And it really clicked for me personally when you have this really great scene of him facing the wolf, which was really great. And then from there, of course, you get the bear, which was, for me, kind of showed just how powerful he really is. He one punched a fucking bear, which is insane to me. It almost felt like it was time to turn up, and he got up and cold cocked him, which was amazing. And yeah, and then of course from there he moves on to the tribesmen, and what you also find out is like the Englishmen, the settlers, us colonizers. Way to go, white folk. And which is another story element, which I thought was really neat how they hinted at. So you get through these moments in the film where by now, as the audience member, you know the predator is out there in the wilderness. You know that Naru has begun to suspect that something else is out there beyond this current problem that they're having, which is a lion, I believe. And she keeps trying to tell them there is something else out there. These foot tracks are different. They're larger than anything we know. Even if a bear was standing on its hind legs, this isn't right. Like, it's moving like this. Something's not right, and no one's quite taking her seriously. And then you get to this scene where you come across this empty field of cattle that have just been like maimed and like skinned and things like that. And from us, the audience, I was a little unsure as to, was this the predator? But then it's in that moment where she starts to pick up what looks like shell rounds, and it gave me that clear view of, oh, that's right. And that's where it clicked for me of the time frame in which this movie takes place. And that's what made me realize, oh, so we have a secondary antagonist, if you will, lingering out there that we haven't quite been shown yet as the audience. But all in all, the expectation going into this film was at a normal crossroads until about a week before. Then it raised a little bit, and then I saw it, and I'd say my expectations were very happily blown away. This was the big win for the weekend, in my opinion, and it definitely deserves a rewatch, and it should have got a theatrical release because this movie is worth it. Now from there, I want to move to the cast, which is, of course, I talked to them about before, which is Naru, played by Amber Midthunder, and Dakota Beavers, her brother, which there's not a lot of cast in the film that is really focused on besides these two, but these two did a phenomenal job. I know that Amber came out in a interview and said something along the lines of she's really glad that she got to take on a role that appropriately covers her culture, and I think that that's a perfect way to say it. As someone who doesn't know much about the culture, this film intrigued me about it, and I feel like they laid enough groundwork to where I was intrigued and almost curious enough to look up other things, more detail about their big hunts, more detail about their roles within the tribe and how they acclimate to certain things and what it was like for them specifically in that era when they were essentially being colonized, which obviously is really shitty. And then her brother as well. I think that Dakota and Amber together, they had a very great chemistry as brother and sister. I like that we didn't go for the trope of, oh, I'm the hunter, you're the girl, you're supposed to be the gatherer, stop trying to take my role. It was very clear that he was pro, do what you want, but you know you need to do the big hunt before it can go beyond that. People need to take you seriously in the tribe, and in order for that to happen, you have to complete this big hunt. And I really, really appreciated their chemistry throughout the entire film, even up to, sadly, his death, which I felt like was beautiful. They kind of cement this line, this passage of, this is as far as you go, I will take no further steps. Basically, this is as far as I go for my journey, and vice versa. He said that to his creature of the big hunt, then he said that to her about himself, knowing that it was her time to essentially rise, to defeat the predator, and essentially accomplish her big hunt. And I thought that was very symbolic, and it's a phrase they used throughout the film, and they did it very well. And their relationship as a whole was very, very well done, in my opinion. I think that they perfectly captured that sibling relationship, that loving sibling relationship, in a world where one of them is trying to, quote unquote, blend into the other one's quote-unquote territory. From there, I want to talk about the story a little bit. Now, I already touched on the tribe stuff, which I thought was perfect. And the inclusion, which was really, really good. I'm glad that we didn't do any form of, like, Hollywood has a tendency sometimes to, especially, look, no offense, Disney, you're doing a great job now, but in the previous years, you've done some times, and other studios as well, where you cast, like, one person who appropriately fits in the scenario or the situation or the time frame or the location, and then you kind of sprinkle in the rest of, like, easy to cast white folk. That was not the case at all here, and I'm very, very grateful that they did that, because me, as a white audience member, I said this before in a previous video of ours on the channel, I'm tired of watching white people. I know what they do every day because I'm white. I want to learn new stories, new culture. I want to learn new things about things I'm unaware of because of the narrow-mindedness that I have been taught up until my adult years. And I feel like it's our art's job, us partly, to go out and search for things, but another vein of we need to be shown things. We need to be open to these types of things, so that way we can kind of grasp that understanding and that curiosity to go learn more. And this movie does that very well, in my opinion, where it sets the tribe aspect, and it made me want to understand more about them as a whole, about that time frame, about their trials and tribulations that they had to go through, and obviously kind of how they, whether they did a good or bad job mixing that in with the predator aspect, which from my perspective they did. I think it was really well done. And then the final thing I want to touch on when it comes to that is the build up, which I kind of touched on a little bit, with the predator slowly moving up the apex chain, but also Naru kind of going through her work of, I know there's something else out here, and I know I want to do this. Let me do this. Then she forces her way onto a hunting escapade of going for a lion or a tiger or bear, oh my, that has taken one of the tribe members, and they're going to hunt them down, which is a very great scene when they get there and they get to this moment where we're in the lion's den, and and one of the tribe members is just like, all right, let's go get this done. And Nara's like, wait, we can use that tree, we can bait it, we can do this and that. And the tribe member says, oh, that's not the way we hunt. And touching back on that relationship, the brother steps in and goes, no, let's try this Naru's way. And lo and behold, even though she fails because she fell, her brother kills the lion and then admits to Naru that it was your way that allowed me to kill the lion, to take him down. You can do this. I believe in you. You have the ability. Now make it happen when it comes to this apex predator we're fighting now. Then the combat. Specifically, this leans more to the predator aspect and her brother, but Naru as well. I think that they showed her incredibly agile. The way that they shot it was so well done. Like, just the action aspects were shot well. The scenery is gorgeous in this film. Where it takes place on the plains is so beautiful, and I think they did a lot of good job with their sprawling shots of the open ranges and the mountains, even the forest. I thought they did a great job with a lot of their more wide shots, so that way we could take in that full range of the scenery. I thought was well done. And then the action stuff, her using the tomahawk, adding the string, getting better with it, was done well. Her learning how to use the gun, I thought was very well done. Understanding, failing, and then learning from that mistake, and then doing it appropriately the right way. And then the Predator's combat was visceral and real and just gritty and intense. Just from the moment that he kills the snake, you can tell that it's very clear that he's not there to kill for to survive. He's there to kill for sport. And you see that through the snake and then the wolf. But it's really the bear that gives that away to me, where he's strictly there looking for the strongest in the chain. That way he can assert his dominance. And the bear, for me, is the one that really set that straight, because he just goes there, he's ready to bump the bear. He starts to lose, and it almost feels like, oh, I need to turn up a little bit. And that's when he gets up and just one cold cocks him, boom, done for. It's honestly an amazing scene. And then we finally get to the scene not long after that, where Naru meets up with a couple tribe members. She's telling them, basically, I'm being hunted. And then he comes and he fights the tribe members, which is an insane scene because shout out to the cojones on these guys who stepped right up to this 7.5 foot, it feels like, muscly creature with this badass mask on, and they just step up to him ready for the 1v or the 3v1, the 2v1 with the combat weapons. It's just like, I respect you, but I know how this is going to go. And the combat there is just vicious with him using the shield to decapitate them, and the way that his masks work with the tracking. It's insane, and I feel like they did so well with the technology attached to the Predator when it comes to his weapons, but they also did a good job of kind of showing where there are flaws in his weapons and technology and how that kind of possibly changed how they hunted again on Earth in the future, if this is a part of that timeline or not. I'm not quite sure, but you can see how they would take this and kind of see like, okay, this is where we went wrong, this needs to change in our equipment. So that was really great. And then of course we get to this phenomenal scene where Naru is being chased again. Another tribe member catches her. They sit down. The Predator's coming right at them. Of course, he's got that thermal, which is a cheat code. And he just, no hesitation. There is no need to slow down and watch this as he's running, just straight slaughters the guy that she's with and chases her down. And then she gets caught in the bear trap. He walks up to her, grabs the bear trap, and leaves. And that's what I thought was so interesting. And Predator has always been like this from what I've seen, in the vein of, I hunt for sport, so I'm not going to kill something that's wounded or is not prepared to hunt/fight me back. So he just leaves. And then they get caught up with the we're just going to keep calling them the colonists because that's what they are. So she gets caught up with the colonists. Her and her brother are there. And then boom. Whooshy whooshy woo. They get away from that interaction. From there, her and her brother get used as bait, which is kind of crazy. And the Predator comes through and begins to straight slaughter the colonists because, of course, them being used as bait, they're tied up. They are not a threat. They're no longer a predator. They're no longer a hunter. They're just bait. And the Predator is not with that. But all of these other folk got guns ready to go. Guns, ammo, weapons, knives, all the good stuff. And he starts taking them out in droves, my guys. Obviously, if you're here, you've seen this movie. In droves. And it is fucking fantastic. It is so nice to watch him just go ham on these people. And finally, he does have to retreat a bit, obviously, because he's being a bit overwhelmed because there is a lot of them. But even then, in his retreat, he still does some serious damage by dropping a literal bomb on them, which was pretty cool. From there, the brother and sister escape for a little bit. We meet the gentleman who teaches her how to use the gun. Boom, her brother gets back. They get attacked by the Predator. And let me tell you, her brother deserves to be the leader of the tribe, the head hunter. This guy was soloing the Predator. Mans was not even reloading with another arrow. He was shooting arrows into this Predator and then running up on him and taking it back out and shooting it again using one arrow on Mans. He was with the shits. That was what made the Predator again step up, kind of like the bear. He was attacking the bear one way, realized after getting put down for a second, he needed to turn up, hit him with the cold cock, full force punch. Same thing with Naru's brother. He was really getting the work in on him, and that's when he realized, I need to switch it up, and he went invisible. And that's, of course, when that line comes back from what I spoke about earlier. He lets Naru know, this is as far as I go. It's up to you to finish this. Boom, he's behind him, full slay. And it is quite sad, actually. By the time we get to this moment, his death does hit a little bit, especially with that relationship they build up and that Naru has to essentially watch. Luckily, she does escape, and in escaping, in that whole scenario, she finds out that the medicine that she has been using brings down the body temp enough to not be projected on the thermal. And that is what turns the tides. And from there, we get the Naru that we know was all of that she was capable of, and we get that. She sets up her traps. She sets up her path. She comes up with a plan. Everything is set. She managed to get the helmet with the tracking lasers on it away from him in the previous fight with her and her brother. And from there, they set up ready to go. And from there, you get the final confrontation with her fighting the Predator. And it's this beautiful, arranged, semi back and forth, but it's very clear that Naru had a plan going into this. And for me, I wasn't quite sure, because when she fell into the mud earlier in the film, that was like a callback to me of, oh, okay, this is how she's going to find out she can cloak herself, blah, blah, blah. But once the medicine came around, I felt like the mud was not going to be useless. Little did I know that we were going to use that as the final bait trap. Then when the Predator falls in, I thought, oh, she's trying to drown it. Then he pops back up, and I was like, well, now's your chance. You might as well try to hit him with the one and done. And then, boom, the laser comes on, and that was all she wrote. She successfully completed her big hunt, and the creme de la crop of the film. So she comes back to the village, victorious, with the head of the Predator, the blood, that green blood like you saw in that beautiful poster, against the face, and achieving that great hunt and going through the same kind of calling that her brother did. And I thought it was such a good ending to the film, with the story points that they were touching on throughout the film, with the big hunt, with the you will go no further, with the Predator, with the food chain. I thought this was a good culmination to that, and showing her succeed in what she had been wanting to, and kind of gaining that, which we don't necessarily see a lot, especially in women in that time frame. I thought it was really good of them to show a powerful woman go against the traditional norm of her tribe, but yet still do something for her tribe and within her tribe's like history, like something they do but not of her role. I thought that was incredibly well done. And then just that final, like, just all of it. And then even the credits were great. I didn't stay through all of them, so if I'm missing like a post-credit scene or something, please let me know down in the comments. Then finally, just to kind of keep this short and concise, just those final thoughts. This movie was really great again. Much better than I had anticipated it to be. It was the big win of the weekend for me when it comes to film. And this is definitely worth the rewatch. Shit, I'm shocked I haven't rewatched it already. But it is definitely on my list. It's staying on my Hulu watch list because I'm definitely looking forward to watching this again. And maybe again introducing some other people to this that haven't quite seen it yet. Which I already have. If you're watching, you know who you are. And then finally, it's also getting some great accolades. It is the #1 most viewed movie premiere for Hulu ever, if I'm not mistaken, if not just premiere in general, which is really, really good. Kind of more of an argument to why didn't you release this in theaters. I understand you're a bit hesitant. I'm not quite sure why. If I saw this film before it came out, I'd be like, yeah, put this in theaters. This is great. Put a marketing budget behind this, a little crisp 30 million, 35 million marketing budget, nothing too crazy. And you still would have got your money back for that at the very least. And then the buzz that you got originally, you would have got that in theaters, so you would get more return, and then you could still pop it on Hulu 45 days later, which is the smallest window we've ever had in Hollywood history. So take advantage of it. 2 birds, 1 stone. But hey, look, I'm not in the financing department when it comes to the movie, so I don't know. And then, of course, some little old school, from the SNL days. I love to do a little take it or leave it. Obviously, if you couldn't tell by the tone of my voice and the excitement when it comes to watching this is a huge take for me. Definitely, if you've seen it, shit, some of you might want to watch it again. If you haven't seen it, why are you here? But if you made it all the way through, watch it again. Watch it. It's great. If you know people who haven't watched it or are on the fence, definitely get them to sit down and watch it. This is a great time. Since it's not in theaters, this is a great family movie night. Depending on what you like to show your kids, depending on how old they are. Gather around, get some popcorn, get some drinks, turn the lights down, and watch this intense, slight horror action film. It is great. You're definitely going to enjoy it. And with that being said, that is it. That is my perspective on Prey that came to you on Hulu August 5th. I am, of course, your host, John-Imre Singleton. You can follow me on IG and Twitter at John-Imre97. And don't forget that TikTok, Emery Talks, where I give you my initial thoughts out of the theater and on films like this that really intrigue me when they come off of streaming. And all that being said, make sure you check out my boys' handles, Joshy5K on Instagram and Twitter, and our editor, Kevin, aka Godology Gaming. His YouTube channel is going to be down in the description below. Make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you know when we're dropping all the newer content. We've got all sorts of videos on the channel already, and we've got plenty more coming your way. With that being said, we'll see you soon.